Back in 2020, I lost 65 pounds using intermittent fasting in just over 3 months. In this video, I'm going to go over step by step how you can implement intermittent fasting into your lifestyle so you can start losing weight fast and you don't have to give up any of the junk food, any of your favorite foods. You don't have to restrict yourself at all. That's what's so beautiful about intermittent fasting and what really got me into it, because let's take it back to 2018 when I first discovered intermittent fasting. I was actually in high school at the time. I was 16 years old and I'd be watching YouTube videos about how to lose weight, videos just like this, and I came across a channel called Kino Body. Kino Body was this guy who had this millionaire lifestyle. He lived in this mansion, he had 8% body fat, and he would talk so much about how every single morning he would wake up, he would drink a black coffee, and then he would drink sparkling water, and he would eat an apple at noon, I think, and then he would break his fast in the late afternoon. And I love watching these videos because it gave me hope for my situation. I weighed 265 pounds and I just wanted to get rid of the weight as fast as possible. And I would watch these videos and I'd be like, okay, fasting, intermittent fasting is the way that I can lose this weight. And so I started to do it. I started to fast until the afternoon while I was in high school. And this brought on kind of a big issue where I'd start fasting, and I don't know if you can remember high school, but in high school, you eat lunch around noon. And I would be fasting, and I would skip that noon meal. And what would happen is that I would tell people around me, I'd say, oh, I'm fasting, I'm trying intermittent fasting, I researched this online. And then all these other 16-year-old kids, especially back then, because these days I'd say high schoolers are a lot more educated. But back then, when I would tell everyone around me, they'd ask me, why aren't you eating, Sunny? It's lunch. They all had their trays and they all had their lunch boxes. I would say I'm intermittent fasting. And then they told me back, you have an eating disorder. You need to stop doing that. You need to eat food. I learned, my parents told me that's an eating disorder if you don't eat food. And honestly, for a lot of these different people I was around, none of them dealt with the same sort of overweight issue that I had. For most of the people around me, I think just in the area I lived in, they actually came from the other side where they were underweight and they struggled to actually eat enough calories growing up. I had a completely different situation than that. And so I understand from their experience and just growing up like that and just being 16 years old that they would tell me those reasons. But I really wish I didn't let their opinions get to me, because it took me another 2 years before I actually took intermittent fasting seriously and I actually started seeing results in my own body. It wasn't until 2020 that I finally started intermittent fasting properly. Now, this was when the COVID pandemic was at its peak. It's the first time that everyone had to go home, everyone was wearing masks, and you had to social distance. You wouldn't see people at all during this time period. And so I was a senior in high school, and then March of 2020 came around and they canceled school completely and they told everyone to just go home. They'll figure out graduation later. Just stay home and don't see people. Now, I was there and I was in my same situation. I was very overweight, 265 pounds, and wow, having this time to myself really left me to my own demons, you could say. And without school to distract me, without anything else, yes, I had video games, yes, I had my friends I would talk to online, but I was really reaching this point where I was seeing what truly was going on in my head, because I dealt with so much anxiety and so much, social awkwardness due to me being overweight, and most of that was coming from my own perception of myself. And just having this amount of time with the COVID pandemic and starting to talk with my friends on a deeper level, I think just us becoming more mature as people, I actually reached this point with my friend where he was asking me and I was talking to him. I was telling him, I have all these goals that I want to pursue, and I want this career, I want to make this type of business, I want to get a girlfriend. I was listing these out, and then I remember it slipped one day and I was just but I can't until I lose weight. And I never told that to anyone else out loud until that day, in that moment, to that friend. And I remember like he stopped and he was just like, "Oh, wait, what do you mean? Like, let's get into that a little bit. You can't until you lose weight." And I told him, I was like, "Oh, yeah, I mean, to be honest, like, if I were to really just think about what goes through my head every day, like what's just running in a circle in my head, it's like 90% about how fat I am." And just like saying that out loud was its own cathartic, freeing experience. But his response to me, it changed everything. And he told me, he was like, "Sunny, that's a big problem there. You know, like you should really focus on that problem by itself. You're a very ambitious person. You're very, you know, you have a lot of potential and a lot of things you want to do with your life. But if that's occupying 90% of your brain, you just got to put everything to the side and just focus on that." He told me that back then, and wow, like that lit a fire under my ass. And for the first time in my life, I just honed in on one issue. And so I started intermittent fasting every single day until 6 p.m. You know, I took it very seriously. And for a lot of people, I wouldn't recommend pushing it that far, but I would recommend pushing it farther and farther as you keep going with it. If you have to be very honest with yourself what type of person you are, because if you're the type of person that needs to, you know, take the smaller steps and get to that point, go for it. If you're more of an extremist person, I know this is, you know, not the type of advice you hear online. You know, everyone's like, go slow, be safe. I honestly would say that you should just jump right in and try to get to the 24 intermittent fasting lifestyle. So this means that you fast for 20 hours every single day, and then you eat for 4 hours. This is a great type of style of eating because once you fast for those 20 hours and you start eating food, you could eat a massive meal and then you'll feel satiated for that entire 4-hour period, and maybe you'll have a snack or a lighter meal later. But you're not prone to eating 4,000 calories in a 4-hour period. When you stuff yourself after fasting for 20 hours with whatever food you cooked at home, whatever your family made for you, whatever your situation is food-wise, once you eat that massive meal, it's very hard to just eat 3,000 calories and keep going. Usually when people overeat, it's because they eat breakfast and now they had orange juice and they had this 700 calorie meal there. Then they go to lunch and then maybe they're at their office or they're with their family and they have another beverage there. And in addition to that, they're eating this massive meal. And then dinner has to be the biggest meal, right? And you just had an entire, you know, tiring day that just like burden you with all this, and so you start eating food for dinner. By the time you're done with that meal, you're 3,500 calories into your day, and now you're gaining weight. You're not actually losing it. And it can seem so out of your control in that sort of lifestyle to actually lose weight because you're just in your different parts of your day trying to satiate yourself. But the cool thing is that it's not like when you fast until the evening that you're just going to try to eat 3,000 calories. No, you're just trying to fill your satiation, your hunger during that specific time in the day. And so at 6 p.m. when I would start eating every single day, I'd eat the chicken curry and rice that my mom made, and I would just sit there and eat that at 6 p.m. And after I ate a good amount of that, I was pretty full. You know, I didn't even want to eat any more food. And then maybe 2-3 hours later, I'd have a snack, I'd have some nuts, I'd have something else, but this just almost propelled me into eating less calories overall. And I'm not even going to get into, you know, like macros, like protein, fat, carbs, like getting into, oh, you got to eat these healthy foods, avoid these unhealthy foods. Like honestly, if you're just getting into intermittent fasting and you're not used to it, you haven't done it for at least 3 months straight before, you should just go into it with zero restrictions besides the timeline of when you're eating. Just let yourself eat whatever after that time period, and I swear to God, you'll see results so quickly in your lifestyle. So, what else do you need to know about getting into intermittent fasting? I'd say you need to stay hydrated. Don't worry about using caffeine during your fasting period. You can have black coffee or green tea. Try to time your meals with friends during these dinners. Like you're gonna have to make some sacrifices at the start, and so you're not gonna be able to go to the breakfast diner with the friends, or if you do, you just need to opt for a black coffee and not eat any food. And then for lunches, you might have to learn how to not eat any food during that time. And most people, when they come to me and they say like, Sunny, I've tried intermittent fasting before, but I get so hungry in the afternoon and I just can't work, I just can't go about my day. And so they start eating food again. You have to learn how to trust, how to separate yourself from the signal of hunger. It sounds unhealthy, it sounds weird, but trust me. You as a human being, you're not your feeling of hunger. So many people think that if their body tells them that it's hungry, that they need to listen to that if they don't listen to that it's in some way mentally unhealthy. I've done 72-hour fasts before, and there's people online who have done 1 week fasts. And I will say, like, you can go and do some research online. It is extremely healthy to do a 72-hour fast. It is just extremely hard for people to actually do it because of the discipline and willpower you need to do that sort of diet. I've done that 72-hour fast, and it's not like you feel, amazing throughout the entire thing. It's not like hunger just goes away completely because you're magically in this fast, right? You feel hunger many times throughout that 72-hour fast. And again, it is very, very healthy. Go on YouTube and you'll see hundreds of doctors make videos about 72-hour fasts. It is very, very healthy. Yet you feel so many hunger signals. What you learn to do during those prolonged fasts, I'm not suggesting you start doing this immediately. What you learn to do throughout those prolonged fasts is separate yourself from that signal of hunger. You are here and all of your sensations and feelings are here. Two different things. And you can only get better at just noticing those sensations and becoming independent of them by literally being in the battlefield, by feeling that feeling of hunger and just making yourself go do something else, or literally just sitting with it and being okay with it. It sounds hard, it sounds weird, but you have to learn how to do that. And once you get past that barrier, just for a little bit, literally 3 to 6 days of intermittent fasting, you just avoiding to eat, you skipping your breakfast and your lunch, 3 to 6 days of that, you will start to feel amazing during the fasting period. It might sound unbelievable. It might sound like it's impossible, like you need food it gives you energy, like throughout your day. But I promise, if you just have black coffee or some sort of green tea, black tea during your fasting window, that's going to give you a pretty good kick in the morning. You're going to feel pretty energized. And then you just have to learn how to just ignore those feelings of hunger and then eat the food later in the day, in the evening. You can start at maybe 2 p.m., push it to 6 p.m. eventually. You can take a couple weeks to do this. Don't worry about it. What's important is that you're trying every single day to push this. So you're not giving in to those feelings of hunger, because the moment that you feel hunger and then you go for it in the morning, you're like, I just have to eat. And you knew that you wanted to intermittent fast. The moment you do it once, you're almost programming yourself to do it again, to just go and respond to that hunger. But over time, as you start to learn how to be like, I'm feeling hungry, but that's okay. I'm just going to work right now. I'm just going to go to school. I'm just going to work. After you get used to doing that, you're actually programming yourself to be able to be independent from that hunger feeling. And then later in the day, you eat. It's going to be an amazing meal. You're going to learn a new appreciation for food after you fast for this much time. So this is how intermittent fasting lost me 65 pounds. I did this for over 3 months, 4 months during that summer. I got down to 200 pounds from 265. I was pretty skinny at the time, and I was lifting weights as I was, started intermittent fasting. I started going to the gym. And so after that 3 to 4 month period, I actually stopped fasting as much, and I started eating protein earlier in the day so I could start building muscle. But we'll get to that in a different video. For now, I want you to start intermittent fasting, see how it goes for you. Just try to get used to it. Try to get used to feeling the hunger and being okay with not eating during that time. Sounds weird, sounds whack, but I promise it's amazing for you. You'll start to lose the weight and you'll build a deep appreciation for food. If you don't believe me, because I'm not a doctor and don't take any of this as medical advice, go on YouTube, search it up. You'll find thousands of doctors talking about intermittent fasting. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you got any value from it, go down, hit the like, comment, and subscribe button, and also watch this next video.